Welcome to Women of the World, a show which gives a voice to women from around the world who have chosen to make the United States their home. Individuals from anywhere in the world who are of good heart are welcome here. Here's today's moderator, Makena.
Hello everyone, my name is Makena and I have the honor to moderate the show today as well as introduce two wonderful guests that are with us today. But first I would like to have the honor to introduce our co-host, Nadia Jordana. Hello Nadia.
Hi, and I'm happy to be here with you today.
Thanks for being here. And now I will introduce the two guests to the show. Their names are Kathryn Kelley and Fadia Thabet. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. So starting with Fadia, you've been with us here at the show. Why did you leave the show?
Well, I had to go to my grad school. I received a scholarship to do my master program in peace building and conflict transformations in Vermont, and that's why I had to leave Minnesota. I would love to come back again, maybe after I finish my grad, but I am really happy to be here.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your school.
Sure. So the school, it's called the School for International Training. It's one of the schools that actually bring practice and academy. The wonderful things about the professors, they are practitioners in their field, so you will be able to apply the theory to the practice, and it's just like an interaction between the students. We have 10 international students and 10 from the US, so it's a kind of like a good environment. And I guess from my point of view, in a situations like what's going on around the world now, we need a lot of women to be involved in peace talks.
Great.
And you received a scholarship for this, is that correct?
Yes, it's 90% of that, yeah.
That's good.
That's amazing.
But you get to spend the summer back here, and what are you doing back here?
Sure, so yeah, I came back in June. You know, I consider Minnesota as home, and it's always been like that. It's been 2 years since I arrived to the US, and I came back to the summer to work with the organization that I used to work with them. It's called Youth Thrive. We are working with youth in their schools, summer sites, and we are trying to build partnership between adults and youth and empowering them in leadership skills. And this organization is also doing a lot of work with the Nobel Peace Prize, and they are coming here on September, the one who won in 2015, the Tunisian Quartet. So it's about a curriculum that we are trying to empower the kids to stand for themselves and for their leadership skills.
So how long is your program? How long are you going to take in school?
Sure. So the program is a little bit different, as I mentioned. It's 1 year on campus that you will be able to take 2 semesters on campus. You will learn the theory behind the peace buildings and conflict transformation, because it's almost like an art. Every time trying to apply something different. It's not just only one way or another. Every time that you are trying to apply it differently to fit the context and the cultures and to different countries. And then we have 6 months that you go off campus, what they call it practicum.
Okay.
You have to work with an organizations or a company, whatever that you are passionate about, and within that time you write your thesis.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, during this last semester, you ended up going to Washington, D.C. for some reason, huh?
Yes.
Would you like to talk a little bit about the award and why you were there?
Sure. In March the 29th, 2017, I received the International Woman of Courage Award because of my work in the past 6 years in Yemen with children affected by armed conflict, and I was one of 13 awardees from all over the world, and it was just like a big honor for Yemen to receive this award, to highlight what's going on in the country and what can women coming from the third world countries, and because we have this kind of like all the time the stereotype about women coming from the Middle East, uneducated, they are under oppressions, they can't stand for themselves. So it's kind of like give a hope for a young civil society, young girls to just like stand for themselves and just like, you know, pursue their careers.
It was exciting for me. I was watching television one evening, and I'm looking and I'm thinking, that looks just like Fadia. And I told my husband, I said, that girl looks, that is Fadia. Honey, come here, look. That was so much fun for me.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
And so do you think maybe your BA in computer science is what got you that award?
No. So I guess that's the funny part, because I had a bachelor degree in computer science, but I worked in that for almost 2 years, and then afterwards I was just like, I don't want to work all the time behind the screens. I want to have this kind of like engagement with the people on the ground. So I applied for the positions with the international NGOs, and then I got that positions, and I've been just like promoted from a position to another, working with this organization, UNICEF and Danish Refugee Council, for almost 6 years. It's a tough work. It's not easy, especially when you are working with kids who've been affected by armed conflicts. So we dealt with rape, kidnapped child soldiers, mainly child soldiers, children who've been killed. So it wasn't a blessing one. In computer science, you deal with numbers and figures. That's all. But in the human rights field, I guess you just like you expose yourself for so much risk and so much engaging with the people. But there is a blessing when you are just like in that positions, helping young kids to just like stood for themselves, and also providing hope for them in this kind of like frustrated situations.
A lot more personal reward.
Yeah, I mean, when I started my work, I never thought that I will get any kind of international recognition. It was something that I have a desire and passion in my heart, even though that it was hard. Every day that it was just like we go to the field, and you know that you might come back, you might not. But it was just like, I mean, without any kind of like recognitions, I was happy to do that, because it just like, it means a lot to me when you just like see a kid smiling back to you and helping them. Yeah.
So with that kind of involvement with the children that have gone through so much, I believe it's got to be affecting you somehow. So what do you do to take care of yourself?
That's a good question. I like sports.
Okay.
I do a lot of outdoors activities. Even when I was back in my country, I was just like 4 days in the gym. It's kind of like the physical activities, just like, you know, clear my mind and just like bring me back my energy. So it was just kind of like escape for me from all the work. But I would say that whatever that I went through, it's nothing compared to those 7 years or 9 years old, what they went through, because they are just like still, they're supposed to enjoy their childhood.
Yeah.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about Yemen now and what you know. Many people, I think, in the U.S. aren't as familiar sometimes, and I know right up until 2 years ago, there was so little information for us. Tell us what's going on now.
Sure. So the situation is devastating in Yemen. It's a war that erupted in March the 26th in 2015. It's one of the rebels. They took over the country, and the current government's in exile in Saudi Arabia, and there is a lot of like more than other countries involving in this kind of like a conflict. Not just only the Yemenis themselves, but we have a lot of support. For example, like the Saudis back the Saudis with the U.S. backing the Yemeni government to regain control from the tribes, and the tribes supported by Iran. But I mean, to be honest with you, I was there before I came to the U.S. till June. I never saw something like that in my whole life, even though that I work in a conflict most of the time against Al-Qaeda and other, for example, like other violations. But it was just like a conflict that affected the whole country. So everything was in a chaos. There was nothing function there till now, and we have now the cholera that's just like an outbreak. But I would say that because I try to be outspoken about what's going on in Yemen, and people start to blame me because I'm just like focusing on one side, which is the rebel, and they said that I might just like have an affiliations with the government or the Saudis. But the thing is, we see a lot of what's going on in Yemen from the Saudis and airstrikes, and even New York Times, the front page. But we don't see anything from the rebels, what they have done. Whether that surrounded cities with, I mean, they surrounded my city with 7,000 landmines. They sniped children in the street. I was there when that all just like happened. So I am the one who's speaking against this, the militia. In addition to that, I'm trying to be a human rights activist by holding the stick from the middle, by just like holding everyone accountable. Like a week ago, there was airstrikes that happened from the Saudis, and they killed 9 members, 4 of them children, in North Yemen. So we need to speak about both sides. And we need also to address it. I mean, there is a lot of going on about peace talks, but there is nothing address the grassroots. Everything that related to the peace talks is going just like from high positions. The governments with the leaders of the tribes, with the rebels. What about what the grassroots, what they want? Everyone wants peace. There is a way that we can bridge this gap, but unfortunately, I guess no one, I mean, that's what I'm studying now. I'm hopefully that I will be involved in the peace talks in the future, whether that from my country or any other countries. Yeah.
It's amazing. So what gives you that kind of strength to stand out and speak for what's best for others without fear?
That's a good question. I don't know. I was a naughty kid since I was, since I was 6 years old. I started to just I wasn't that kid that would receive everything for what our parents will tell us. I was that kid that will just question everything. Give me an explanation. I'm not going to do it unless you give me an explanation why I have to do it.
You had a mind of your own.
Yeah, and I was just I received a lot of, kind of empowerment also from my parents and then from the family. And my family also really, really admired educations. And I remember that my mom, actually, she was the one who pushed me. It took me 25 days to arrive to the US. It was a journey that I will never forget. I had to cross a lot of, landmines and dead bodies. And we knew that maybe I won't see them again. But it was, I guess it's just like an education. That's the strength.
Do you foresee visible or measurable progress in the next 5 years, say, or do you see a longer term?
For the war in Yemen?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good question. There is a lot of things going on, but there is no party is exhausted because of all their support that they're receiving from the outside. Because if you are by yourself, you just feel exhausted by killing, and all the supplies that you have, you'll just run out of all this, whether it's weapons or food or medical supplies. And we have a huge shortage in services such as medical supplies and food, and people have to go to the black markets to buy all this, and you have to have money or saving. So it's really devastating. You have to flee from a country to another, from a city to another inside Yemen to just secure your safety. So what I'm seeing in this situation, that we are heading towards the same scenario as Syria, because of the outsider factors that they are trying to fuel and supply the conflict. Everyone they do these negotiations and peace talks, but you can't hold everyone accountable, even the government or the rebels. Yeah.
Wow.
I have one last question that I need to know.
Sure.
How did you become such a fluent English speaker who speaks faster than any Minnesotan I know?
So it's my childhood story. I started to learn English when I was 10 years old. I I had these passions about the language, because it was, if you want to just open yourself to the world, you have to learn English, not just French or Spanish. And I started to listen to songs and watching movies. And I started to write it down word by word and just find a dictionary. But at that time we didn't have any internet access. And that's how I just learned English. I never been in English institute in my whole life.
No classes.
No classes. And I'm now in a grad school.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Very amazing. So what do you see happening for you once you are done with your master's program?
So I look forward to go back to the field. I know it's a crazy decision, but I want to throw myself again in a war. It's a good situation that other people might see it a good situation, but you feel what's going on. You just not hear it in the media, but you feel it. When you are in a field that you will feel you have to do more. It's not an option. You have to do more. And I was in the field and I had this kind of unique connection to it. So I want to go back to the field. Whether it's a war or a post-conflict, so I'm open for options to go abroad, as an international, worker.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was thinking about what you were talking about when you go. Will you be back and forth between the United States and Yemen as you progress with your plans and your education and what you're going to be doing with the war efforts? Will you be back and forth between the two countries?
I would say yes, because I built a family here in the U.S. Especially in Minnesota, with all of you, with all my friends here, the network that I have. But I'm not sure. I mean, you don't know where life will just like throw you from one station to another. So I'm happy to just come back and build another network. Yeah.
No, we're happy to have you here whenever you're here.
Thank you.
Right. And before I switch gears, I must say that you really deserve to be that woman of courage.
Oh, thank you.
That's a very rightful award for you. And I wish you very well as you continue with your studies and the next plans.
I appreciate it.
So we are going to switch gears and let's hear a little bit from Kathryn. You went to Costa Rica.
I did, and it follows a career of teaching. And I graduated. I retired and felt that 45 years of teaching was enough, and I was happy to retire and thought, now what wonderful things will I do? I wish they were as engaging and as much a part of things, and maybe you will help me move in that direction. But actually, as I quit my teaching, I was invited to teach. And so I was invited to go with students from our Minnesota State University, or no, it's the state system, which is the 7 universities and the community and technical colleges. So from a very small consortium of 14 smaller campuses, Metropolitan State is where I taught, and that's one of the members of a small consortium, but most of the members are community colleges. And community colleges and Metro do not have centers for studying abroad, like the University of Minnesota does, or even Mankato, St. Cloud, Winona have good centers for helping students go abroad. But we want our students to go abroad too, because we think it's so important. It's so much a part of their education.
It's good for them.
It is so good for them. I think people do not know how much you learn by just studying in another country. Travel is good, study is better. And we have few students who are able to take advantage of it, but we had the few to put the program together. But when students go to study abroad, they get credit for their Spanish, they get credit for culture study, but then they have to have a full semester of credits. So 2 faculty are selected from this consortium to go with the students and teach 1 class. And you only see the students in the afternoon, 1 day a week. And mine is intercultural communication.
I was going to ask, what exactly are you teaching, and what is intercultural communication?
Again, a very good question. In intercultural communication, we look at how one-on-one people communicate with each other, assumptions we bring from our own cultures without realizing how very isolated or narrow those assumptions might be. We think they're universal. Doesn't everyone say hi like they do in Minnesota when you walk by people?
What are some of those assumptions that people make?
Well, this idea of walking by and saying hi to everyone. People in not even, I mean, in European countries from out of our kind of roots think that we're kind of like bobble-headed dolls. Hi, you know, because you really should be connected to the person that you talk to. But if you are connected to that person, then you better, especially in Kenya, I think very much in Yemen, stop and talk to them.
Yes.
You wouldn't walk by them on campus saying, oh, hi. And then many of our international people want to stop. They go, hi. And they want to stop and talk with you.
And then
but we go, just keep walking. Minnesota nice. Kind of universal. Minnesota nice in the U.S. But we have many people who think, well, of course people are going to appreciate it if you say hi. No, in many countries, you wouldn't speak to someone you haven't been introduced to through a friend or family member. It's not appropriate.
So with bringing the students to Costa Rica, so there's communication challenges there. Did you experience specifically with communication? Challenges.
Many. My students were living in homes. So the Costa Rican host family is where they would stay. And what I try to do is for a full week prior to them leaving, we end up with about 5 hours a day together in preparation to talk about what are their expectations and trying to set expectations reasonably about things like privacy or food you eat or your attitude towards food. You know, if somebody puts it in front of you, eat it. You know, you don't have to eat it all, but eat it. And don't ask for peanut butter or, you know, U.S. things. This is somebody's, we value our food and we want to give people food and show them how much we appreciate them by the food that we give them. Other people do the same thing. So in Minnesota, there are a lot of people who don't like other things, but they haven't tried them. And historically, I took a group, I would take groups to Nicaragua, and I would say, you know, we're only here 2 weeks, and it was just simply not a, they did study Spanish in the morning, and they did work with children in the afternoon, but it wasn't as long, so it wasn't as intense. But I basically said, you know, I really don't care if you like or dislike the food that you're eating. Eat it.
Try it.
Yep.
Yeah, what an
And
opportunity.
You're not kidding. And if you don't like it, you can live on water and maybe have some peanuts in your room, you know, for 2 weeks. It won't hurt you. You'll be just fine.
In my cultures, like, I mean, people will offer you food 3 times. They was just like, you need to eat to make sure that you are not hungry. So it's not like the U.S. culture will offer you once and that's it.
Yeah.
And then if you said you're not hungry, so that's it.
And you're supposed to then say again, very soon, you know, say, no, 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 please, have some more, have some more. No, you're supposed to deny it at least twice, you know, to say, oh no, too full, too full. But the third time you're supposed to take it. Is that similar in Kenya?
It is similar, and people can get pretty offended if they offer you food and you say no. They feel like you're looking down on them, or like you don't like what they are giving you because they are not good enough.
And it's their gift.
So it's their gift. So yes, people do get offended.
I think there's truth
Culturally.
in that, and I think a lot of times strange foods are refused. I don't know about other cultures, but I think Americans sometimes do refuse other culture foods out of fear and the strangeness of it, and they don't realize they're offending. But I can see where that could happen.
Yeah. I want to go back and ask a little bit about the program, because I came as an exchange student, and it was just like such a nice, full of adventures, full of knowledge to come to the U.S. as an exchange student. And you get to know not just only, I mean, at the academic level, but also like the personal, you are interacting with other people here. And you will just like carry on these memories with you all your life. So I want to just like know how the students apply for it, where you should go, and the websites, how many students you had. Tell us more about it.
Well, our group made a connection directly with ICLC. That's the Institute for Culture and Language of Costa Rica. It's a small little place. It's not a college or a university. They focus only on the Costa Rican culture and language. And that connection was made back in the 1990s. And so we have a long tradition with them, and we're very impressed with the work they do. So our students arrive, and the host family is there to greet them at the airport. And then the host family speaks only Spanish. So even if your Spanish is level 1, you are looking at someone who is speaking to you in Spanish, which we think will eventually grow your Spanish well. So then you're in their home. You really are a guest of these people. And people usually are people who have had other international students, and they love hosting international students. So that alone is worth the entire trip. But that gives them a center in a community, and then they begin to know that community fairly well. The homes of the people where my students stayed are very close to the Institute. So then there'll be programs on Wednesday afternoons where they go to museums, or they go to different cities, or they go to, we ended up going to a concert down in San Jose that was exquisite. The opportunities are beautifully presented through the ICLC, but then the students are so on their own come Friday afternoon until Monday. Obviously, they have to do a lot of work on their Spanish, a lot of work of reading the culture stuff. They're still writing journals for me. There's work for the other faculty too, you know, that's kind of tough. But the main thing is they get out, they go on public transportation, they go into San Jose, they explore, they go to different festivals, they know where there's going to be. They used to send me emails and say, would you like to join us there's going to be this beer festival down in San Jose. And I thought, well, I won't be able to stay awake for it probably, you know. And they had a wonderful time together. But frequently they do that together. So they become such a unit and seem to so love exploring this country. The difficulty for them is sometimes Costa Rica looks small compared to the United States, but you can't get well from over on the east or central area where we were close to it. We were in Alajuela, which is just north of San Jose. But if you want to go over to the coast on the other side, you can go to the Caribbean coast, but if you wanted to see what the other coast was like, that is a very long journey by bus. And if you wanted to go to the rainforest, there's a beautiful rainforest in Monteverde. They'll go there, but it's a major trip. And then sometimes, you know, if it takes all till Friday evening late, and then you have Saturday, and then you start home on Sunday, that's difficult. But all the time, they're interacting with the people, they're interacting with the systems. It's so valuable for them to start to feel so confident in their ability to get around and to be a part of the culture.
What about friendships they make that they bring back or carry on once they've come back? Does that happen very often?
I think it really happens often, and I can only speak for myself. I had my apartment, and it overlooked the Central Valley. It was a gorgeous spot, but the host for this, it was through Airbnb. Natasha and Lothar had their little son Jack, who's 6 months old, very small, and they're from Venezuela, and they are refugees from Venezuela because, of course, there's so much problems in Venezuela. But they will be my family from now on.
Oh.
I have another grandson, you know, and his birthday is in August, his first birthday. I will see them. I will go there because my own other grandkids are in Orlando. There's a 3-hour airplane trip to San Jose, and they have moved from up in where we were up closer to Poas, the volcano, but they have moved down and will be down there. So I believe each one of the students can tell you at least 1, 2, or 3 people that will be part of their family probably, and I think they will be part of their host families for the rest of their lives.
Well, thank you so much. We are running out of time here. It went so fast. There's so much to hear, but it's been a pleasure to have both of you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fadia and Kathryn, thank you so much for coming to be with us. And Nadia, so good to co-host together again.
I agree.
Yes. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching the show, and we'll see you next time at Women of the World.